It's a pleasure.
Secrets to winning. You've been a podcast guest desire of mine for 3 years, I guess. And we've had awesome conversations before. I wish we would have just recorded them, but I want to get your insight as a program builder, as a talent identifier and developer. But I really want to get more than that. Is I want to talk to you about your total perspective is different. Coaches often see themselves in the X's and O's, but you were so developed into the humanistic side. Talk to me about how that developed.
I don't know if it's the Midwest nice part of me or Iowa nice, because I grew up from Northeast Iowa, a small town called Fayette, population 964 people, and everybody knew everybody in the town. I mean, when I was a senior, I could tell you every kindergarten, first and last name, what their mom and dad did, the whole thing.
Whose house to go to.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Trick or treat, who gave the best candy,
right.
Everything. But I took a class at Northern Iowa. I think it was junior summer. I went to summer school one time, and it was human relations. And it was a 4-week course. And some of the things that we did in that class, I still use to this day.
Really?
As a coach, things I've learned. I went to a conference probably 18 years ago called Capturing Kids' Hearts. Is a gentleman named Flip Flippin. I still use some of the things that he taught, and it was a conference just for educators. And I had a cousin from Iowa go to it, and she said, I really think you'd like this. So it was a 3-day conference. And I went to the middle of Texas and stayed at this retreat house with 59 educators.
Wow. Elementary,
middle school, high school, and me. And between those two, the class at Northern Iowa and this conference, seriously, that's some of the things that
it just got you on your pathway.
Yes.
How did you end up in softball?
I was, growing up in Iowa, I had 2 uncles that played fast pitch in the Army.
Okay.
And then they had daughters that play. At every family reunion, when we go to the farm, and it was 3 farms on 3 gravel roads, A, B, C.
Okay.
And one of the uncles had a huge front lawn, and every single 4th of July, Memorial Day, Labor Day, after we ate, there would be a softball game breakout. And one of the cousins, Ann Anksman, she was a pitcher in high school, and I just couldn't believe how she could throw it that hard and control it. And I just kind of developed a love for it. And then when I went to college, I worked in sports information at Northern Iowa. And my senior year, I was assigned the sport of softball by myself, and I got to travel with the team. And then in your neck of the woods, Louisiana, I ended up at grad school at Southwestern Louisiana. Now,
good. You stop there.
Now ULL.
Okay, you still add the extra L. That's fine.
Yes.
For people who don't listen, it used to be University of Southwestern Louisiana, which I always thought was a perfect name for the university. And then they switched to the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, and then that school has dropped the Lafayette part. And I'm like, it's still USL. But anyway, that's fine.
Yes.
Yes.
My master's degree is USL.
Okay, good.
Louisiana, or Southwestern Louisiana.
Yeah.
So when I got there, I was in sports information. I thought I was going to be an SID. I'd coached high school baseball in Iowa. They play in the summer. And when I got to grad school, the assistant coach for Yvette Girard, who's
was a legend,
Hall of Famer, both at ULL and LSU, she had me, we went to eat pizza one night, and at the end of the conversation, she said, would you like another duty? And I said, sure, what is it? And she said, my assistant. And it was part-time, no benefits, and $6,000. And I didn't even have a car with me. I flew down to Lafayette with 3 suitcases, and that was it.
Wow.
And I was like, $6,000, hell yes, I'm going to do it. So I was writing my thesis, going to class, working as a SID.
And assistant coach.
Yes. So I did that. It took me 3 years to get my master's. I stayed.
Did she know your background or anything? I mean, what led her to wanting you to be on the staff?
Oh, one of the pitchers had found out that I'd coached high school baseball in Iowa.
Really?
Yeah, a pitcher on the softball team. And I think she said to Girard, go ask the SID. He might know what he's doing. I'm serious.
What happened to the coach before? They just
she took another job.
Oh, okay, so she was like, I need somebody. And
yeah. I mean, it was literally a week after school started.
Wow.
So
that's one of those serendipitous blessings.
Yeah. I mean, if I'd probably be an SID right now somewhere at a Division I school, or probably never coached. And I said, sure, let's do it. And then 5 years later, we went to the NCAA Tournament all 5 years.
Yeah.
She was the National Coach of the Year 2 of those 5. We went to the World Series for the first time ever. And then right after that, the SEC started softball. And then I got the assistant job at Alabama, and here I am.
And so you started as the assistant here.
Yes.
And then how did you rise up to the head coach?
The gentleman that was the head coach went back to Texas, went home to Texas, and Bob Bockrath was the AD at the time. And I can remember he called me over to his office. It was like July 10th, and it was the summer of 1998. And he said, he talked for a little bit. He said, here's your contract, and, kind of a take it or leave it.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll take it. I'm in.
Yeah.
And to me, it was kind of a one-year tryout. He didn't say that, but I kind of got the feel of that. And the first year we went to the NCAA Tournament, and then the next year we went to the College World Series.
So what year was that? The second year of y'all's program?
It was, the third year.
Holy cow.
Yeah, the third year we went
And just so people understand, when you're watching ESPN now and you watch softball, which I wanted to come back to, is a highly, highly watched event. But at that time, SEC was not a softball conference. It was the West Coast.
Yes.
It was Pac-12, UCLA.
Yeah. In the first 4 years, we could not beat a Pac-12 team. And the year we went to the World Series, we got sent to Arizona State. And we had to beat them twice on their field. And it was the first time we'd ever beaten a Pac-12. We did it twice, and then we went to the World Series in 2000.
That had to have been, one, remarkable, but two, did you ever feel like, and I mean this in all due respect, like, I'm such an imposter? I mean that in respect, because a lot of people will talk about the imposter syndrome. Here you were as an SID who worked for a vet, did great stuff, come up here, next thing you know, you're the head coach. 3 years later, you're in the World Series.
Yeah.
I mean, did you think somebody's going to find out that I'm not supposed to be the guy?
Well, the first year that was the head coach, obviously I was assistant.
Yeah.
Everybody loves the assistant.
Yeah, you're the best guy on this.
Yeah. So here I go from good guy to now the head coach. The very first tournament, Kelly Kretschmann, who was our first 4-time All-American, 2-time Olympian, gold medalist, probably the best player we've ever had in our program. We're playing, I think it was New Mexico State at Arizona State at a tournament, and she was at third base, and we weren't scoring many runs. And she took a big lead, and I said, Kelly, do not get picked off. We're barely scoring any runs, and you're important right now. The next pitch, she gets picked off. So I said, on the bench. And I sat her down, and I was like, oh, my God, shit, she could go home.
Yeah, I'm done.
Quit. But, I was like, got to lay down the law a little bit here. Well, I look up, and the first thing I see is her mom and dad leaving the stadium. And then I'm thinking, oh, my gosh, they're going home. This is it. And a couple of days later, the mom had emailed me or something, and she said something like, we were sick and tired of watching that, bad softball. We just got the hell out of there and went to the airport.
Really?
Yeah. And, I learned a lesson then, too. It was just, after it was over, it's done.
So you don't – that's an important point as a coach. A lot of coaches, I find, can't let go of the decision that got the player in trouble. You don't.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yes.
You say your piece.
Yes.
You do what you have to do, and then there's no grudge.
Done.
How do you do that, though?
How
do you not take it personally?
Yeah, I just think, a lot of young coaches ask for advice, and I'm like, don't play head games.
Yeah.
Never hold a grudge. Don't play favorites. It's just you got to love everybody no matter what. And then, we've had a couple girls kicked out of practice. They'll leave practice. They'll text an older player, and they'll say, what do I do? And the older player always says the same thing. Come back tomorrow like nothing ever happened, because he'll forget it.
Huh.
And we learn a lesson, and then we move on. And I don't know. I've just always done that. There's no grudges.
That's so important, though, because one of the areas in leadership that I struggle with is a little bit of some of the leadership things of loving everybody. And this generation hears positive. But loving is not about positive. But that creates a rub a lot of times for leaders and coaches, is that I'm trying to be the dynamic guy. I'm trying to be the fun-loving, woman in charge. I'm trying to be, but yet it's in conflict.
Yes. I use this saying as be an All-American at taking a butt chewing. And I'm hoping in the fall sometime, somewhere, it's going to happen. Okay. And then I'm praying that the person that's, kind of getting yelled at takes it like a champion. Because then after that, I can say, did you see how she handled herself? Yes, sir. She looked me straight in the eyes, never crossed her eyes, never, whatever. No bad look, no Debbie the Downer. Mm-hmm. Basically looked at me, said, yes, sir, and then moved on. That's how you do it. And I remember a story actually, and you might remember this too. It was in Sports Illustrated the year LSU won in football, and Coach Saban was there. And I believe Jimbo was the offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. And he was really tough on the quarterbacks. And was the quarterback
Matt Mock?
Yes. There was a story in Sports Illustrated that he's quoted as saying, the day we won the national championship was the day that Matt learned how to handle this discipline from Jimbo. And everybody on the team said, look at Matt. That's how you do it. This is how it's going to go down. And somebody was quoted as saying, we won the national championship that day.
It's interesting you say that, because I look back to my playing career. That was very much like Skip. He was going to chew you out and it was over. But if you couldn't handle it, now he was going to go after you. Do you have to tell your players on the front end when you start them in the fall and the young freshmen are here wide-eyed and unaware that, listen, you're going to get chewed out at some point and I'm going to teach you how? Or do you just wait for an opportunity to shatter them a little bit?
No, I think that happens in the very first team meeting. And okay. I always say as well, don't listen to how loud the message is. Just listen to the message. Because if I'm at home plate and an outfielder screws up, mm-hmm. that's going to be really, really loud because she can't hear me. It's going to be different if the catcher's right behind me, because we're probably just going to have a conversation and nobody else is going to hear it but me and her, yeah. Right? But for somebody else, I really have to let loose sometimes, and because she's never going to hear me. So it's always about the message. And then we also say the time that you need to worry is when we stop talking to you. That's the issue. Because we are loving you when we correct you, when we discipline you,
When you live up to our standards.
Exactly.
Yeah. But in that, I find so many leaders are so afraid to actually draw that line. Because in today's culture, the kids can get on social media. They can call their travel ball coach, which, I put up a tweet the other day about, listen, when you sign your thing, get rid of the coaches that thank them, but learn to be coached by the coach you're going to now.
Yeah.
Do you worry about that? Because recruiting is always a big deal. You don't want a negative perception. You've been in this game a long time.
I think, though, 100% if you're honest, okay, I don't know if fair would be the right word, mm-hmm. but if you're honest, I think that goes a long ways. And I've tried to be brutally honest with everybody in our program from day one.
It's not about feelings.
No. Principles versus feelings,
Do you recruit that? Do you look for that?
Well, we have some very specific leading questions that, like if you were the dad of a recruit, yeah. You'd be on the couch and it's dad, recruit, mom, coaching staff. And we probably ask 20 to 25 questions where I want to know what I'm going to get when they get here. Mm-hmm. We can see that they can run, they can throw, they can hit, all those things. All of us could walk by a field and see a stud and go, damn, she's good. I want to know what's inside her, what she's going to bring to the table when she comes here. So those questions, and I think my favorite one is, I'll say, do you know what an intangible is? And sometimes they'll know, and then sometimes I have to explain to them that it's something that you can't see, it's something kind of inside you. I want to know what kind of intangible you would bring to our program and our family if you come here. So I always embrace the pause, and it's quiet for a couple seconds, and the mom and dad are probably like, "Oh my God, what is she going to say?"
Yeah, let me answer that.
They're nervous as hell. Yeah, they want to talk. So And then I'll say, do you understand the question? And if she says no, if she needs a little more help, I'm going to point to Allison Habits, who played for me at Lafayette, Stephanie Prothrow, played for me at Alabama, and then my another assistant, Bryn Dordell, played at Drake University in Iowa. So all three are Division I softball players, and they've heard this question, since day one. And then I'll say, well, do you want to hear what Allie's was when she played, or Steph's, or Bryn? And then they'll give them an example. And then I'll come back to the young lady and say, do you understand the question now? And 100%, yes, sir. Well, I wish you could be there sometimes because you'd be really proud of some kids because the answers just blow you away. I mean, I literally want to hug the kid and say, let's go right now.
Let's go.
So that question is going to tell me a lot about a kid and whether she can take the discipline. Is she a servant leader? Can she hold people accountable? Because that's a question that I always ask too. Have you ever had to hold a teammate accountable? Tell me the situation. What happened after? That tells you a little bit about maturity of a kid too, if she can do that. So not many kids actually admit that they've done that because that is a tough thing. That's like the number one thing of our leaders on this team they have issues with. They have to hold somebody accountable.
It's tough because ultimately acceptance is what we want, right? Acceptance as a coach. I mean, you want to be in the recruiting circles. You want your players to have a culture, and your players do. I see you tweeting about it quite a bit. Other coaches struggle with that. They really struggle with that nature of holding accountability and maintaining those standards, but then also being vulnerable themselves as a coach.
Well, one of the things, and I'm going to give you some kudos here because, we've had a lot of speakers over the years, culture, psychology, and you've been the favorite.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
thank you.
Everybody listening, this guy's a good dude.
Thank you.
And he can speak. But one of the things we started doing probably 15 years ago was we would have the first 3 years, we would have this team dinner at the beginning of the year. Everybody come over to my house. Everybody's brand new. Well, the poor freshmen were scared to death.
Sitting in the corner.
Exactly. Not saying a word. So I was like, we can't do this anymore. We have to assimilate them a little bit better. So then we started doing class dinners. So the freshmen come to my house. They carpool together. That's like a requirement. So they all come over from the dorm. I email their moms and ask what their favorite dinners are. And then usually the first mom to respond, that's what I cook. And then we have an itinerary for every class. So the sophomores go to Steph's house, my pitching coach. The juniors go to Allie's. And then the seniors come to mine. So we do this all before our meeting, our big meeting. So each class dinner kind of gets a little bit leadership heavy as it gets older. So the seniors, that's all we talk about is leadership. Juniors, it's about role playing and situations that will probably arise during the year. And Steph and Allie are the actresses. And then I'll grab one of the players and she's thrown into this situation. And Steph and Allie know exactly what the script is. The kid just steps into the scene. And now she has to talk them out of something or talk them into something or discipline them. And then the other people in the class are sitting on the couch. And then after the scene is over, we say, would you do anything different? That's been extremely valuable. And then the sophomore class is more of an affirmation night. We play a game called I Got Your Back. And literally everybody has a piece of paper. We put it on their back. And we go around in a circle and we rewrite a positive affirmation about whoever sheet that is. And then when we're done with that, we get back on the couch, the chairs, and each person reads what it says on their paper. And then they have to look around the room and guess, Brett, was that you? And if it's you, the proper response is, thank you, Brett, period. So, and we'll go to apartments or dorm rooms, and that piece of paper stays with them for their entire career. So it means a lot to them, those affirmations. And then the freshmen, just a little bit of a simulation into college, lose the letter jacket,
lose the high school letter jacket.
It starts anew.
Yep.
You're here for a reason. I loved you as a person. I love you as an athlete. Now let's get going. So those 4 class dinners have really helped develop the culture year after year after year.
Was there a certain spot you look back at and you went, that was the changing moment culture-wise of my organization?
Well, I'd say it was that conference I went to in Texas.
Really?
Yeah, capturing kids' hearts. The gentleman is a genius.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Educational psychologist. I'll never forget his name. It's Flippin.
Yeah, that's great.
He wrote a book called The Flip Side. And all the things about the affirmation, model and affirm, the 8 steps to a professional handshake, affirmation bag. I learned all those things at that conference. I'd highly recommend it. I believe they still do it.
Do you look back? What would be one of your biggest regrets coaching here? Is there a player, you don't have to name the player, but is there one that you went, oh man, I didn't get to? Like, I wish I could go there again. Because I think coaches oftentimes hear a successful coach like you and go, you never struggle, you never screw up. Is there one that you wish, a player that you would have been like, I tried?
Yeah, I think probably maybe a little too harsh at the beginning of her career. And if I had taken it just a little bit easier, like I think I do a lot better now with that, and kind of take baby steps along the way, because she was very good. I mean, one of the best we've ever had. But I think at the beginning of her career, if I had just taken it a little bit easier in terms of the discipline and the loudness of the talk, she would have flourished a little bit more.
Do you think that was an overcoaching? Do you think you saw the potential there? Because I saw a great tweet today, and I don't remember who tweeted it, but it was a John Wooden tweet, or quote from John Wooden about sometimes overcoaching is worse than undercoaching.
100%. And I've read so many books about people talk way too much, like 90% too much in terms of with an athlete. Let them figure it out. And I think I do a better job of that now than probably 15 years ago.
Is success and failure of this program, is it, this is going to be I don't want you to hear this wrong. Is there an ego in there for you? And I don't mean ego in a bad way, but you got to be damn proud of this. So the wins and losses here, do you look at that as, it's like your family.
Oh, yeah. And, one of the coolest parts of being here so long, this is the 24th year I've been here, 2 as assistant, 22 now as a head coach. But I can tell you what every kid, where she's at, who her husband is, what she's doing, how many kids, all of it. And, I have an email distribution list like this long when everybody's in there. That's the coolest part. And, like this past weekend when we played LSU in football, there was probably 25 to 30 that kind of had an impromptu reunion.
Yeah, I was wondering. I saw that on social media. I was wondering what was going on.
Yeah, a bunch of them came back. Nobody had football tickets,
Oh, okay.
But
so they came back trying to get you to get them tickets.
Yeah, of course. And of course, 2 weeks before, they're like, "Hey, could we have tickets to a football game?" And I said, "Sure." And I said, "Which one?" And
yeah,
are you kidding me?
Right.
So no, that's one of the coolest things. Is it is a big family. To be able to, not only players but trainers, SIDs, managers. We keep everybody really, really involved, and we want them to come back. We want them to feel like this is their program. This is, this is their house. This is the Rhodes house, but it's their house.
What's the biggest challenge you see coaches entering the college ranks now? Title IX, there's a lot of demands. There's a lot of revenue, which means there's a lot of pressure to perform. When you were starting out, college softball coaches probably didn't get fired immediately for struggling. Now it's, you got to produce.
I think even like for me is I've talked to you about this many times about the social media, the pressure outside the program, and it can get ugly at times, and we've seen it in a lot of programs here and elsewhere. Just the negativity just gets overwhelming. And I think and you've done a good job with our group, but you have to stay on top of it, and you got to shut out, and Coach Saban does a great job. He calls it rat poison, but you got to shut out the outside noise and just concern yourself with who's here, what we're doing, we're getting better, we're improving, all those things that you want kept within the team, and not listen to the outside noise, because sometimes it can get really, really loud.
Well, you have a very passionate fan base.
Yeah.
And for that, they in their mind, and I don't mean this to put you in a spot that would anything be misconstrued, they have expectations, They're very passionate. They love the girls. They want to see them succeed, but they also live and die on every pitch. So sometimes there can be a pressure there, right?
Yes, yes. And, I talk to my baseball buddies all the time about this. And, we're the only school still in the country that have played in all 15 super regional rounds. Every one that's been played, we've been in one. And, we had a couple of bad years a couple of years ago, and we're one game away from the World Series. And it's a bad year for us.
Yeah.
So I have to sometimes, take a big step back and say, that was a hell of a year for this team. It really was. We kept our streak at home in regionals intact. We kept our super regional streak intact. There's
Is that a pressure for the kids, though?
I try not to even bring it on to them. Like last year, here's a good story for you where we Arizona State was one of the best teams that got sent here for regionals.
Yeah.
The championship game, we're down 5-0, make it 5-1. We have the bases loaded and our best hitter's up to bat, and Bailey hits a grand slam, makes it 5-5. We win 8-5, championship game. So in the press conference after the game, one of the local sports reporters says, man, it was really tight, and that 39-game winning streak almost came to an end, and Bailey kind of looked around like, what's he talking about? And I was going over like this, I never even told him anything. And we'd won our 40th straight game at home and during a regional that day. And so after the players leave, they ask them questions, and then the NCAA excuses them. And the reporter said they really didn't know. And I said, no. Why bring that up?
Yeah.
I don't even mention that.
But you started off the year in a hell of a streak too.
Yeah, and that it was 33 in a row, and even just to do that, as every game went along, they got more and more confident, and it was really fun to see.
Let's talk about that year, because you did have a couple years that were not up to your expectations. Do you ever have moments where you look back and you're like, okay, the natural tendencies, we got to burn some stuff down, we got to change the way I'm doing things, it's not working anymore? How do you stay the course to keep enduring? Certain kids grew up, certain kids found themselves, how do you stay the course? Because that's the scariest part for a coach.
Right, and I think, and I've seen it where somebody gets their dream job, and it could be here, could be at LSU, a big school, and they've done everything right up to that point. They got there for a reason. They got hired at a really good school because they've done all this stuff at 2 or 3 spots before. And then when they get that dream job, you don't know who the heck is this person.
Yeah.
They're not doing anything that they did before. And, you mentioned this before about the outside pressure, getting fired, got to win. Just continue to do what you've done. You got here for a reason. But I also think on the other side of that is you got to have a culture in place to get you through those tough years. And I think that's what happened with us.
Yeah.
We did have a couple tough years, but the culture.
It almost broke you. I don't mean that. I'm not divulging anything. I'm nothing bad. I'm just saying I know spending some time with you, that was a time where it was almost like, what the hell? Because you felt like you had some good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the reason I'm going there is I think it's so important to hear for coaches and leaders to understand as the most successful coach in this program, one of the most successful coaches in college softball history, had a moment where, like, what the hell is going on?
That's about right.
Yeah.
Yes. And, the one year we had a senior step up. She gave a hell of a speech and said, we're not losing this game. We're not, all these streaks are staying intact. And it really came down to her. And last year, a kid named Reagan Dykes, which, she was our senior catcher. And one of the things that we talk about at that senior dinner at my house is the role of leader supersedes that of friend. Okay? It can't go friend and then leader. It needs to go the opposite. So leader is first. She was that perfect. She held everybody accountable. She wasn't worried about being liked. She was respected by everybody. And she just was masterful in her role. Catcher.
Yeah.
Knew all the pitchers, saw the whole field, and then was that kid that really kept everybody in line.
How do you groom the person to step up this year? Because those are big shoes.
Yes.
Huge shoes.
Yeah, huge. And, that was, we had a great senior class, and all 4 of them played their role to perfection. without a doubt. It was about the team, the whole way. That was, they were just perfect in their roles. So now this year, and even like at the beginning, probably early March, I'm starting already to think, okay, who is going to be Reagan next year? I probably shouldn't do that, but I do. And then even 2 years down the road, then who in the sophomore class, when they become a senior, is going to take over that role? Because you need someone. And it doesn't have to be a senior, but in this case, she was awesome. So we have a couple candidates right now. I think they're all getting better in their role of a leader. Their communication is doing much better. That was really the biggest worry of everybody, was who was going to be that vocal, hold people accountable leader.
Yeah. To go to the World Series like you did last year, to be right there, and to run into a hot team, who then got just run over by a hotter team. Did you see that coming? I mean, give the listener an understanding. I mean, y'all were going at it. It was some really elite teams playing. This wasn't like, there was no doubt the top of the top were playing.
Well, at the beginning of the year, we have a practice inside. Just right behind us is our indoor facility. And we had to have batters versus pitchers inside. So we have a Rapsodo machine, and you videotape the hitter, but also on the iPad it shows how fast the pitch is. So it tells you exit velocity, distance, all these things. But then at the bottom it says miles per hour. So it was like a Wednesday, I think. And we had one pitcher step up 68. I was like, damn, that's she's bringing it. And then our junior college kid hits 69. And then our freshman gets in there, and it's 70. So in between batters, I literally go over, and I shake it. I'm like, is this thing working? And as the day went along, 70, 71, 72, and I think she even got up to 73. Well, the next day.
And that's the equivalent of, in baseball, probably
103.
103 miles an hour.
Yeah, I had 30.
Damn.
So the next day, the SEC coaches poll came out. So the day before, I'm going home like, man, this could be a special team. And then the poll came out, and they picked us to finish 8th out of 13.
In the SEC, not national.
No, SEC.
Yes. So
I was like, I don't know. I see something totally different with this, because all three of those pitchers were new.
Yeah.
Nobody knew anything about them. They knew their accolades and their, whatever, but nobody had seen them on the field. So flash forward, late May, June, and it's us in Oklahoma.
It started out national seed. Y'all got disrespected, SEC champs.
8th again.
Was it because of the SEC tournament?
We really don't even know. It's probably a little bit of who we played and who we didn't beat versus who we beat. And
what a blessing.
Yeah, exactly.
To rank you 8th again.
Yeah, 8 was our lucky number. So at the World Series, we lose the first game. Then you have to play 2 Saturday, 2 Sunday. We win the 2 Saturday. We win the first game on Sunday. And then we have Oklahoma again. So we literally played them 3 times over 4 days. And you're playing in Oklahoma City with...
Yeah, that's their home crowd.
10,000, Boomer Sooners, and it's a hell of an atmosphere. But we just kind of ran out of gas at the end. But just one of the most fulfilling, enjoyable seasons I've ever had. Nobody expected anything out of us. And, we got our SEC rings.
Oh, yeah. And thank you, by the way.
Yeah.
Great surprise there. When you look at that team, and then you look at this team, and you're building your kind of that future of what you want to do, your hunger is still there. How do you keep your hunger?
I just think, college setting, it keeps you young. And then every year, no matter how many you have coming in, how many you lose, how many seniors return, it's a different team. Every year is different. You hope a year older, a year wiser, a year stronger, right? Mm-hmm. You're hoping that. But sometimes somebody takes a detour and you got to get to work. But, last year we had 0 experience at the World Series.
Yeah.
0. 1 year later, we have 14 kids on the team that have experience playing in a World Series. It's that fast.
Yeah.
So now I think it's going to be the complete opposite. I don't think we're going to be disrespected again, but now we have to keep everybody in check. You got to keep working hard. We're playing against the game. keep improving. We can still be better. Nobody hit 1,000. Nobody had a 0.00 ERA. Nobody fielded 1,000. We can keep working hard. We're going to show everybody again how good we are.
Your development as a coach, very mental game focused, humanistic, as we talked about. You also go to the American Baseball Coaches Association meeting. How many other softball coaches do that?
Well, I think
last year, but when you started that,
yeah, there wasn't very.
You were probably the only one.
Yeah,
and you're a diamond nerd.
Yeah, definitely.
Anything played on the diamond, you're all about it.
Yes. Between the ABCA and Twitter, I've met so many good people in the sport of baseball, and I think, that they just love to share. You played for Skip.
Yeah.
You share all the time. Your camera guy, Brett Basham, played for Ole Miss. He shared with me all the time.
Yeah.
And just being, with guys that just basically want to get better, and they're not afraid to give some secrets, if there's any secrets. But it's just an enjoyable time, and it's 3 days of baseball heaven.
Yeah.
You were there last year, and it's just a great.
But you bring in baseball, like you've been bringing in experts from the baseball side to teach the softball side.
I think everything's the same except for the pitching.
Yeah.
It's the same game. Hitting, fielding, throwing, the same thing. One of the guys I've met on Twitter is Kai Correa, who's infield coach for the Cleveland Indians, and, just one of the nicest guys in the world. He comes to do a middle infield clinic for 45 young ladies who will never be able to help the Cleveland Indians, right? But he treats it like it's the biggest thing in the world to him, and I love that about him. We've had a former catcher for Alabama who played for the Royals. He came this fall. Same thing. Absolutely loved it. Anytime I can get anybody in here smarter than me, better than me, that's the reason. I want to learn from them.
What have you learned from being on this campus with the other coaches? Obviously, you got Coach Saban, you had Sarah Patterson, and you coached her daughter. You've had great coaches. What have you learned from that?
Well, first of all, I love that I'm a spring sport, so I get to learn from Coach Saban in the fall, soccer in the fall, volleyball. Any team that competes before me, I pay attention to what they're doing, watch every press conference of Coach Saban, listen to what he's saying. That's huge. There's huge value in that for a spring sport. I think I've been here with 4 or 5 basketball coaches, learned something from every one of them. I
saw you tweeting John Brannon last night.
Oh yeah, he was an awesome guy.
Yeah, he was awesome. Been fortunate enough to spend some time with him with Northern Kentucky, and I'll be doing the same for Cincinnati.
Yeah, I think he's going to do great things.
Oh, I do too.
I think Nate Oates is going to do a great job here.
I agree with that.
Just great energy, hard worker, brings that gritty attitude that I think is going to really help us. But I just, everybody's open too. That's one of the coolest things. We have a head coach meeting every month, once a month. And at any time, a conversation can break out about who's doing what in recruiting, who's doing what in team building, culture, whatever, strategies. And I think the coolest thing about it, though, is one team wins, everybody wins. So it doesn't matter if it's J.C. Will in golf, they win the national championship, everybody feels like they're a little bit a part of that. So
pressure?
No. Nope.
Just fellowship.
Yes.
Fellowship. How has the softball game exploded? Because let's be honest, baseball exploded, but there was, if I'm not mistaken, didn't they out TV ratings the College World Series?
Yes, it was. I don't know if it was this year, it was a couple years ago, but it was like 37% higher ratings for softball. And I just think it's a fast game. Basically 2 hours and 15 minutes. The athleticism is exactly the same. You can hit a home run. You can throw somebody out from center field. You can hose a runner as a catcher. You can make a diving play at shortstop. It's the same game. But I think that time, the quickness, and then the other really cool thing, and I tease some baseball buddies, is, when you watch the Major League playoffs, they're basically doing things that college softball done is the whole year long in the dugout. They're having fun. They're playing loose. They look like college softball players all year long, when it comes to the playoffs. And I don't understand, why not do that the whole year?
The whole year.
Because it's so much fun to watch. And I love baseball. But playoff baseball, it takes it to a whole nother level.
All right, so I'll let you be political here for a minute. Do we have an umpiring problem in sports? Because there's a criticism of not a lot of umpires are going in the game because the criticism and the abuse from the fans and the parents in the stands. So if the pool's smaller, then there's not as many people going into it.
100% agree with what you said about there's too many issues going on behind. I feel bad for umpires, especially at the lower levels.
Yeah.
You know, little league soccer, little league softball, baseball, whatever. That just needs to stop. And I don't know if it's going to. You know, too many fights breaking out at a little league park. Just is uncalled for. I think, you know, college softball. A lot of games are TV. You know, and it's just like a major league umpire. They're held accountable with the TV. We don't have instant replay yet, but I think it's starting to get there. We host the SEC tournament this year, and we will have it at our place experimentally.
Yeah.
But I think as the years, like 21, I could see it going throughout the whole SEC.
The whole SEC. All right. Let's finish up with this. You've got a young coach, a young leader of an organization or something. They study books, they read. Give them your marching orders as a leader, as a Hall of Fame coach, as somebody who's driven success and inspired people. There's got to be something that they can't get in a book, but they can learn from you.
Well, I've learned it from a book, but I think above anything else that we do here that's really, really good, and you know the word, what I'm about to say.
I was going to get there.
But I would say for years, if you can be as happy for a teammate's success as if you did it yourself, the sky's the limit for the team. And I mean, over and over and over, I would say this. And I'm reading a book over Christmas break about 2012, 2013. It's called Help the Helper. Great book, sports and business combined. And it was a chapter on servant leadership. And I think the sentence started having vicarious joy in someone else's success. And then it said, in other words, Mudita. And I was like, wait a minute. And I got out my phone, I looked it up, I typed it in, and I was like, there's a word for what we've been trying to get our girls to be like, having vicarious joy in someone else's success. And so I literally, the first team meeting, pulled it up on the board, Wikipedia, Mudita. There's not an English word that equals that. There is an English word that's the opposite, and that's envy and jealousy. And envy and jealousy are dirty words in a team sport in my mind. You know, if you have that on a team, you're not going to win. You know, and I tell our team all the time, if you hit a home run and somebody's coming into the stadium and they're late, they just bought a ticket, they hear the crack of the bat, they realize something good really happened, they hear the crowd roar. Well, as they rush down to their seat, when they see the scrum, the get-together at home plate, they shouldn't look around and see one girl smiling. They should have to ask the other season ticket holders who hit the home run. They all look happy. Okay, that's the goal. So if you and I are competing for a position and you win it and you hit a home run, I'm just as happy for you as if I did it.
That's hard in today's
world. I know, because, you know, we have core values. One of them was competitive and one was selfless. They don't go together. Competitive. We're competing for the same spot, but if you win it, I want to be happy for you. It doesn't happen. Somehow, some way, it has happened here. And last year, at the end of the year, I asked them, the whole team, I said, text me, why do you think this year was such a great year? What made this team special? And probably 15 out of 18 said some version of Mudita. You know, one of the pitchers said, this is the first pitching staff I've ever been on, that nobody cared who was the number one. They all wanted to be number one. And that's coming directly from a pitcher. So it was really, really cool to see.
And there was a very high-profile moment that was played out.
Oh, well, in our past?
Yes.
Yeah, it was Brittany Rogers and Jaslyn Lunsford in 2009 at the World Series. And people can see it on YouTube. It's called Anatomy of a Teammate. And we didn't know all this stuff was going on because we're in the heat of this game. But I pinch hit a senior, 4-time All-American, for this freshman. And I say to the senior, I said, hey.
It's elimination moment.
Yes. Could be the last at-bat of her career. And I go up to Brittany Rogers, who's the senior, and I said, hey, Jazz is going to hit for you. Go tell her she can do it. So 4-time All-American, last at-bat of her career. She says, Yes, sir, with a smile.
Wow.
So then I grabbed Jazz from the dugout and I said, hey, you're gonna bat for Brittany Rogers. Well, she's a freshman. She doesn't realize the hugeness of the moment. She goes over, gets her helmet, gets her batting gloves, get the bat, and as Brittany's coming into the dugout, she grabs her and says, "You got this, Jazz. You can do this." Well, immediately the freshman, it's okay. The senior is okay with this. Because if the senior would have walked right past her, rolled her eyes, gone to the end of the dugout, she never would have touched the ball. So now Jazz feels like, okay, Brittany's in my corner. Brittany not only gets to the top step of the dugout, but she becomes a world-class cheerleader for Jazz during this at-bat. Well, it ends up 2-2 count, bases loaded, 2 outs. She hits an opposite field grand slam. And the commentators are going nuts. It was John Kruk, Beth Mowens, Michelle Smith, Jessica Mendoza. I'm just thrilled as hell that it worked out.
Yeah, it worked out. Brilliant coaching decision.
Yeah, well, a buddy of mine from Georgia who plays high school ball in the fall, probably 2 weeks after the season ended, he said, hey, do you have that DVD of the Arizona State game? And I said, sure. And he goes, would you send me a copy of it? So I just sent it to him. And about 2 months later, here comes this VCR tape. And it says Anatomy of a Teammate. So I put it in my VCR, watch it, and I had no idea that most of that stuff was going on. But he had split screen stuff, and he talked about what it meant to be a good teammate. And really that moment right there is the epitome of Mudita. All you have to do is watch Brittany Rogers celebrate the success of her teammate. It was absolutely perfect. And it's probably the number one thing when I speak to coaches clinics, they ask if I have that copy of that moment. So it's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube. We'll link it in the show notes. Bash will link it in the show notes. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for everything you've done for me. Thanks for allowing me to be a part of your program. Thanks for the respect of honoring me with a ring. Very unbelievable. Just beyond belief. Thanks for everything.
You're the best.
Thank you.
Thanks for everything you do for us.